So should the government refuel the Cash for Clunkers program? Let's bring in Jack Hadiri, chairman of smarttransportation.org. He calls himself a co-architect of the Cash for Clunkers program. We also have James Pethokoukis, Reuters money and politics columnist. Thanks to both of you for joining us. I want to try and crunch some of these numbers here as we're going through them. And since you're, credited with being the architect of the program, how many new sales do you think that this resulted in? And then how much does that translate to? Say it's 110,000, like J.D. Power said. How many jobs does that mean? Because we're touting this program as a huge success. And obviously it is if the goal was to get, $1 billion out the door and create these sales. But what does that really mean? Well, listen, let's first remember that the sponsors of this bill, the initial bill, Dianne Feinstein, Steve Israel, Chuck Schumer, and others, asked for $4 billion initially, not $1 billion. They knew that this was going to be a very successful program. They asked for 4 times the amount that was given. So now we're in a bit of a crunch here because the program was successful as predicted, and now we've got to add $2 billion very quickly to the program to make sure it continues. But, Jack, we're saying it was successful. I'm trying to quantify what that really means. What does 110,000 cars mean? I mean, how many jobs is that? What does it equate to in the economy? What does that equate to in GDP? What does this mean? Sure, let's look at the numbers. As recently as 2007, the automakers in the United States sold about 16.5 million cars. This year, we're on pace before Cash for Clunkers to sell about 9.5 million cars. That's a big drop, and that means a loss of over 1 million jobs. 50,000 jobs in dealers and hundreds of thousands of jobs in the assembly workers and hundreds of thousands of jobs in the part suppliers. Okay. Now we're on pace, though, to bump up from 9.5 million probably to well over 1 million a month, given Cash for Clunkers. Jack, what about that? I'm a little concerned about the numbers. I mean, if we're talking about 110,000 cars on $1 billion, in a market where we're selling 9.5 million cars, statistically, that's not very significant. Even if you heap another $3 billion on the program, it's 300,000 cars, and those aren't ones that would not have been purchased. I mean, these are people with really old cars that presumably they needed to replace. Let's remember what we're trying to do with this program. We have several goals with this program. First, it is an immediate stimulus. The fact is that jobs are being saved right now because of this program. It's not 110,000, it's 250 to 300,000 cars.
What jobs are being saved? What jobs are being saved? Not the auto workers' jobs aren't being saved.
Right now, how do you know somebody was going to get fired?
I'll
give
you
one example. You have dealers. We had to close 1,100 dealers in the past year. Had we had Cash for Clunkers, those dealers would be open today, and those 50,000 jobs. But they'd still be waiting on their money, right? According to Jimmy P. Jack. They'd still be waiting on their money. Dealers have the credit to go ahead and extend this and then get this money in 30 to 60 days. That's how every program works in terms of this. Dealers are used to that. They have the facility to extend that loan for 30 days and get it back from the government. The government's getting them that money. So they're not out that money. They're going to get their money. This $1 billion is producing sales of 250,000 cars in a matter of a week. Okay. You cannot find another stimulus program that's working that fast compared to this. All right. I guess we have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Well, obviously, this program has been an unbelievable success. We believe that each dealer has about 14 Cash for Clunkers deals that they've already done. And we believe with those 14 deals, about 16,000 dealers participating, we've moved about 225,000 vehicles in literally 4 short weeks. I mean, that's a resounding success for the program. And obviously, if we put more money to it, I have a feeling that there will be as strong as interest in getting more of these gas guzzlers off the road and replacing them with more fuel-efficient vehicles.
Do you know at this point, Bailey, what the average mile per gallon of the new cars are? People are turning in the clunkers, but what's the average going out?
We don't have the actual numbers on the specifics of the cars that have been going out, the new vehicles, but what I can say is almost from our survey, almost 2 to 1, people are trending towards the $4,500 voucher. So generally speaking, people are going into the marketplace, they're getting rid of their clunker, and they're buying a much more fuel-efficient vehicle. Again, 2 to 1.
All right, so Brian, let's go to you here because you and Mark have 2 totally different stories, but
Sure.
you're way above the average in terms of what people have brought in, right?
Correct.
60 so far?
We've sold 60 cars already under the program, and we had a showroom that was packed when I left this afternoon to come here to the studio, and we do have some specific information on the gas mileage of the average clunker. The average clunker we're taking in is getting 15 miles per gallon.
15 miles a gallon, okay.
The average car they were replacing it with in our Honda showroom in Queens, Paragon Honda, is 27 miles per gallon. So when you look at it, the customers are improving their gas mileage by 55%.
That is a pretty incredible statistic.
Aaron, those stories are consistent. I've been speaking to dealers all across the country. The truth of the matter is the Cash for Clunkers program is moving metal off of dealers' lots, and that's so phenomenal. I had one dealer who complained. I had one dealer who complained to me the other day that he was fearful he was going to run out of new vehicle inventory. I informed him that was a really good problem to have.
Right. Would it have saved GM though? I mean, because it sounds like, and I know Brian's just one person, but obviously a lot of these trade-ins are American clunkers and foreign-owned fuel-efficient cars as opposed to General Motors.
Well, the point of this program was to, number one, sell cars, number two, stimulate the economy, number three, help some of the struggling automakers. In fact, they helped all automakers because there are so many American automakers as well as international who are connected to this market and to our economy. So while we don't have the exact numbers of what's being traded and where, this is still going to help out struggling automakers, but more importantly, you know, again, we're helping the environment, but you have so many vehicles in sales, there's sales tax that exist that are essentially paid to cities and counties and states. Well, you know, this is a phenomenal boon for them. You know, as we've said, the automobile dealer is probably one of the most powerful economic engines on Main Street across the country.
Brian wanted to get in here.
I think it's really important. You know, the money has finally been put on the demand side of the economy instead of the supply side. They put $15 billion into General Motors. They didn't sell a car. They didn't save a job. They didn't save a dealer. And in the end, they didn't save General Motors. Now, here we go. We put $1 billion on the demand side, and look what's happened. The program exploded. They had to stop everything because there was so much business that was being generated. And to the comment that he made before about the sales tax, we're the #1 contributor of revenue for the state sales tax. Every time we sell a car, $2,000 or $3,000 goes directly to the state.
Directly helping the state, so and that feeds through.
They're getting this money back.
How encouraged are you by this? Look, I think it's a very positive sign, and I'm really excited because, as you say, we did 34 cities and 11 states talking about a need to stimulate demand for the automobile industry, and I think that tour helped to do that. And listening to you and Verge right now, I got to tell you that you're all on the right track. We need to do more of this. We need to stimulate more demand. We need to stimulate more manufacturing, and we ought not to be ashamed of what we're doing. The president of France said they were going to put $8 billion with the B into their Cash for Clunkers program on the condition that all that money would have to be spent on cars produced in France. For us in the Steelworkers Union, we don't assemble cars, but it's our tires, our steel, our aluminum, our glass, our plastic that goes into those cars. So once those cars start moving off the showroom, our steel mills will start to work, our tire plants will start to work, and people will start going back to work.
Officials expected 250,000 new cars would be sold, but were stunned the demand drained the program in less than a week. So today, the House tripled the size of Cash for Clunkers, and notably, both Democrats and Republicans voted for it.
Finally, we have a bailout, not for the big businesses, not for Wall Street, but a bailout for Main Street. It is the one thing that we have done here in this Congress that is absolutely working.
This is a win-win-win for our country. It's one of the great programs to create jobs.
Most of the naysayers are even admitting that it's the best $1 billion in economic stimulus funds that the federal government has ever spent.
I think what was so great about this program was how dramatic it was. A program that was supposed to last months ran out of money in literally days. And I think that just shows what a great program, not only in terms of creating an incentive for people to trade in old cars for more fuel-efficient cars, but to spur that demand. And I'll tell you the other, I think, key point that a lot of people are talking about is just psychologically, this is what this country needed. 70% of our GDP is consumer spending. It's motivated by people waking up one day and saying, I want to buy a car. And what they saw by this great program is other people wanting to buy a car. And I think that just creates more demand. It's just a really powerful sign for the Obama administration.